Welcome to Season 2 of the Shop Stool Podcast, a podcast for woodworkers and the maker community in general. With Joey Chalk from King Post Timberworks, Bryan Cush from Sawdust Bureau, and Robin Lewis from RobinLewisMakes. Hi everyone, I hope you're all very well. This is episode 14 of Season 2 of the Shop Stool Podcast, and it's also the first episode of 2020. So welcome back everyone.
Yo.
As always, I want to start by introducing my two co-hosts. Joey, how's it going?
Yeah, very good. Very hot today.
And Bryan, how are you? I think you're going to match Joey there.
Yeah, he thinks it's hot in Auckland. I'm coming to Melbourne.
And my name is Robin Lewis. Welcome to the show, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about just what we've been doing over the last, what's it been? Probably a
month?
Almost. Yeah, actually, it's been about a month. Just catching up. But before we do, I have a little bit of housekeeping that I want to mention because I made a terrible mistake in the last episode where we talked about our good friend Leroy,
right,
who was fighting the fires, and I called him a volunteer firefighter.
Oh, he's professional.
He messaged me afterwards to say, I'm actually a full-time firefighter and I'm never going to live this down with the rest of the guys. So, Leroy, from the bottom of my heart, I apologize. I hope you've still got your name and it's not in tatters. So, yes. For everyone out there, Leroy is a full-time firefighter. But yeah, so if anyone follows Joey on Instagram, they would have seen a picture of Joey delivering his table that he talked about last time.
Yes.
Joey, do you want to just walk us through what happened?
Well, so I finished, this is the ambassador's table, had to be delivered down to Wellington, which is the other end of the North Island for me. So I had arranged for a shipping company to do it, a furniture moving company, and I paid a premium amount of money for them to kind of white glove it down there, all wrapped by them, insured and everything. So they said when they picked it up, it'll actually probably only take 2 days to get down to Wellington. And I thought, that's great. I'll book a flight and give myself an extra 2 days past their delivery date, just to make sure it gets there. And so my flight was the first thing in the morning. I was going to shoot off to the embassy, take delivery, or put the table together, show them all the bits and pieces, and then head straight back to the airport for like an early afternoon flight back home, and I'd be back in the workshop for, afternoon tea. But it didn't quite work out that way, so they were like 3 days late with delivering. The morning I went to fly down, I get an email saying, we might deliver it today. And I'm like, well, that would be nice because I'm in Wellington for the day. So as soon as I'm landing, I'm having to change my afternoon flight later and later to try and get back in time. They finally delivered at about 3:30 in the afternoon. It was meant to be there, days before. And it was okay. It looked good. Apart from when he pulls the blankets off, by that point it was in the back of a van to get into the small residence where we were. He pulls the blanket off, and I could see one of the glue laminated aprons, had been ripped away from the buttons that were holding it on to the tabletop. So it looked like someone had grabbed it by the apron and just yanked it and just ripped off one side.
Sure.
So luckily, it was just a matter of undoing the screws and kind of bending it back into position and putting it back together. But it wasn't until, it was really weird, it wasn't until he drove out the drive and I walked back in and I saw this big smudge on the top, which I thought was from our sweat and everything as we had our arms on it and trying to maneuver it through the doorways. And I went to wipe it off, and then there's all these bumps and lumps and dents underneath this smudge mark, and so it looked like, to me it looks like they dropped it on something like concrete.
Wow.
So it's actually, the thing is, it looks bad. It is bad. It's a very small area. It's maybe like the size of a key, and you can only see it from a certain position in the room. And 99% of the time, they're going to be keeping tablecloths on this thing, and so it's going to be so it's going to be a way up versus, is it going to be worth their while to have it replaced and be without it for a couple of weeks while I saw their schedule and they're very busy. They've got events on all the time and they really can't afford not to have the table. So it's going to be a way up whether, I'm not sure what's going to happen. The ambassador hadn't seen it as of yesterday. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything today. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with it.
Yeah, I was just assuming that you were going to say they would have like place settings. It seems like a bit of a shame to put a tablecloth over it.
I talked to them about that, and without giving too much away, it's traditional for them to have a tablecloth versus placemats.
Gotcha.
So that's how they keep it all the time.
Can I ask Can I ask the ballpark of how much it costs to freight stuff around New Zealand? Like how much did it?
That cost $1,000.
$1,000, including insurance.
Including insurance with what like what they call it, premium international wrapping or something.
Yeah.
So
it's killer.
Can you go back to them and?
Yeah, I've emailed them and showed them the picture just to say this is what's happened. Not sure what's going to happen yet, but here's a heads up, you might have to be paying for this. At this stage, I'm actually thinking the easiest way to fix it is for me to make a new half a tabletop.
You're kidding me.
And finish it, and then just take it down and replace it in situ, and then they're only down for a day.
Oh, mate.
Jeez.
Because you can imagine how hard it's going to be for me to organise someone to go and take it off, get it stripped, find someone to use the same product and finish it the same way that I've finished it, and have it match the rest of the table. It's actually easier for me. Or someone takes it off, the shipping company ships it up to me, I refinish it, and they ship it back down, and someone's got to go and reconnect it all back together, some magical person. It's probably easier for me just to make a new one and drive down and do it and come back up.
The damage is on one of the permanent parts of the table as well, isn't it? It's like just at the start of the curve.
If it was one of the extension leaves, I probably would have put it on the plane as a check-in item and just brought it back, or even carry on. But
and the actual client, were they pretty understanding about it?
I didn't get to meet the ambassador, but the chef and the matron who I'd been dealing with for this whole thing, they liked it. Everything was good. They were happy with the layout and how many seats they could get around it, and that's why in the pictures there was plates, and they were just trying to organize how the seatings would go, because I didn't realize they had to have 4 sets of cutlery, and so it made everything wider. So I think there was 2 less seats than we thought we were going to get, because I didn't realize no one told me about this gigantic array of cutlery and all that kind of guff that had to go on the table. So
yeah, because I guess as long as they're okay with it, that's the main thing. At least then you've got some wiggle room in that area. Because if they were fuming, then stuck between a rock and a hard place.
They were happy with it. There was a couple of things. I mean, so the little fold down legs that were on it. One of them wouldn't magnetize back up, and it seemed something had shifted enough that the leg was just popping off. It just couldn't quite hold itself, whereas the other one was perfectly fine. And so that was on the same side of the table as the damage. So it seems like as it got dropped, stuff had shifted a little bit. It's just been tweaked a bit. And so, yeah, it could be that.
Anything you can do to avoid this happening again?
I won't use movers. I mean, I would just rough it out and drive down there, spend the night, and come back. Yeah, it's much more safe in my own hands, and I can be more gentle with it, and it's just not worth it.
I'm definitely with you on that.
I could spend the same amount of money on a hotel, if I'm going to do that.
So even if you schedule it, with potentially meeting other clients or a family weekend away or something, so it doesn't feel like you're just going down. And I would quite often do that when I get pieces going to Sydney or Adelaide, Brisbane, Canberra. I'll do it myself, because I just don't sleep well at night, knowing that even if it's a career that I trust, I only trust them to some level.
Yeah. Really, the whole week I was nervous about it because I just, these guys come in and they just think, oh, yeah, it's a bit of furniture, let's throw it in the truck. And even though it's wrapped up and stuff, you're like, come on, guys, this is actually kind of fragile.
Literally one of a kind.
Yeah, and so anyway, it's a bit disappointing, but yesterday I left, get the plane at 3:30, got back home 3:30 in the morning, got back home for 9 p.m. and so I just went straight to bed and came back to work, and here I am again. So.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny when the builders have been working on my house over the Christmas. And after they've come and gone, like they were all such good guys, and we had such a lot of fun working together. And I don't think any of them are malicious in the slightest, but there are still dings and dents that I've had to go around and patch up. And it just seems like if it's not you treating this like it's your baby, you're never going to get that level of service that you were expecting.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. They're just not invested in it financially or emotionally. So you can only do what you can only do.
But since then, I saw on Instagram you've been doing a couple of other projects.
Yeah, I'm so flat out, it's ridiculous. That's why I'm back at work. I should have taken the day off just to rest, but I've got actually, I think I've got too much on because I'm starting to slip with some time frames and running out of materials, and I can't be in and my head's not in all the jobs enough. So I'm trying to slow down a bit now and smash out some stuff. I don't know if I've been rambling a lot, but maybe someone else can talk. You can come back to me. I've got some interesting jobs coming up, but I don't know if you want me to carry on now or
keep rambling.
That's right. Fine. Bryan, you've been working on a cot, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I've been working on my crib. January always seems to be pretty quiet over in Melbourne. I think Australians tend to overindulge a bit at Christmas or maybe a little bit broke.
Yeah, right.
So I'd kind of penciled in a bit of time to do a crib, and now I've ended up adding a dresser into the mix as well, just to spice things up. So I've got 6 weeks until the baby arrives, and it's funny. Like I said, I mentioned it before, but with client work, when the piece leaves the computer, it tends to stay like that. Whereas with my work, when I'm making things for myself, I tend to adjust things in the workshop, change profiles and thicknesses of timber a bit until it sort of feels just right. And with this crib, I've done that a lot. And the problem with the crib is all the standards that you have to meet. So if you take a tiny bit of timber out here, it multiplies across, the spindles and things, and then you end up with something that doesn't comply. So, it's been taking a bit longer than I thought, but patient wife is doing well. But no, it's nearly finished. It's nearly finished. I'm just trying to work out the mechanism to have a drop leaf on it. These are obviously not legal in, I think, the EU. They're definitely not legal in America. And the research that I did it was mainly because of poor hardware that the drop leaf can pop out. Baby can get stuck between mattress and the leaf. So I've obviously spent a stupid amount of time trying to engineer like a rebated bracket and a sliding panhead screw that sort of sits within a slotted joint, so it will never come out, is the plan.
It's interesting. I'm going to interrupt you because what I was going to talk about is exactly the same thing as you're talking about, is making production runs of cots for a company, and they're drop side cots. And so I've just been through this whole thing with hardware, and so these guys have actually found hardware that's pretty easy to install, and it has a little safety lock on it. So you have to force against a sprung-loaded lever and lift and push the front of the crib to let it slide down, drop down. Pulling it up is fine, but it's having it so you've got to put a couple of kilos of force into it before you can drop it down. So baby would never be able to do it.
I've kind of been playing about with two different sort of track profiles and things, and working out how high, like I need to prototype it, but how high it needs to be lifted to sort of drop again.
Yeah.
I think this, like, because I've used white mahogany for it, which is it's pretty similar to blackbutt. It's pretty heavy timber. The spindles are Vic Ash. The side panels probably weigh more than a baby could ever lift a millimeter. Never mind. I think I've got 10 mil as the up, and then the 150 mil drop. But yeah, it's been a little bit of a challenge, and just add a dresser in as well. I've got 6 weeks to finish them. But like I said, it's been pretty quiet at the minute. I went down to Tasmania, as I mentioned on the previous show, to do the design build project with John Wardle Architects, which was fantastic. Just felt like a dream. Like, yeah,
it looked like an awesome place.
Oh, it's incredible. It actually reignited my passion for architecture a bit. Like I sort of said before, how I got drained a bit by it, and it was more the multi-res side of things. But when you see a house that is built like a piece of furniture, like the level of detail in this thing, like the finger pulls for everything, like the nooks that would sort of house a particular object. I mean, it's just phenomenal. So he's got two places on the property down there. One is mainly for staff and visiting guests, which is the new build, a sort of a modern shed called the Shearers Quarters. And then his house is Captain Kelly's cottage, which is an old 1870s or 1880s cottage that he's renovated. And the renovation of that is like nothing I've ever seen before. It is taking the best of modern craft and putting it into, a really old heritage building. So yeah, that was really cool.
Doing a lot of it himself, or is it? Does he get contractors in?
It was all done with contractors, builders from Hobart. I can't quite remember their names, but it was a bit of a mission. Like, they're located right at the top of Bruny Island, and there's a car ferry that goes right into the bottom of Bruny Island that you have to wait to get on it until there's space. You sit in a queue, and then it's an hour and a half on unsealed roads for the top half anyway to get up to the site. So despite the fact you're so close,
I didn't realize Bruny Island was that sort of rugged.
Yeah, it's really like up the top. It's proper sort of outback stuff. But you're so close to Hobart. Like they brought us in on a chartered boat that left from the Mona Ferry Pier and brought us pretty much bang to the property. That was half an hour. But as a tradie, if you're trying to get materials in, you're going down to the car ferry, and it's a 2.5 hour round trip if you get on the ferry. So there were huge challenges involved in building it, and they built it over, I think the house was done over about 18 months. And it was mainly just John working on it. It wasn't any of the staff that I know of. I think it was maybe one of the other principal architects or partners was working on it, but yeah, it was John's baby, and he would just go down and sketch a detail, and then the builders would interpret it and make it.
Awesome. Yeah, it must have been high stress for those builders when you're having to do it to that level.
Yeah, there were some good stories about it. But and it was fun for me. Like, awesome. So my project down there was sort of a version of the Heidi gallery tables that I'd done before, which were originally inspired by the table in John's house in Captain Kelly's cottage. So he had two old antique tables and just commissioned an infill piece between the two, sort of a modern infill. And he wanted to take those two ideas and put it into a table for the North Bruny Community Centre, to have a table that they could sort of sit around and chat and have pizzas and that kind of stuff.
What I really liked about that table is that you actually cut one table into the next table as opposed to just butting them into each other. And that really, I think, set it off, a way nicer aesthetic compared to the one where they were just butted together.
I agree. I think the butting together was part time restraint, like trying to do 40 tables that all have complex interlocks like that, and having to template every single cut.
That's right.
And the second you cut into a lot of them, they just fall apart because the apron isn't there to support it. So there were 7 tables in the arrangement we did for the community centre. 2 of them ended up just having one leg. And they're kind of resting on other tables, and there's bracing underneath that supports. But it was It was a really nice challenge. Like, I brought over a few kind of key essential tools, and then it was working with whatever tools they had in the shed up on site. And 3 of his staff were working with me doing it. They got to be on the tools a bit and sort of get that experience. And we actually got through it pretty quickly. So there's another group going up next week to paint it and install it.
Cool.
But no, it was a good little project.
So
a good buddy of mine moved to Tasmania from South Africa a year ago, and every time we talk, he says, "I've got to take you to Bruny Island. It is just the most amazing thing you'll ever see."
It's magical.
And I've just had a quick look on Google Maps. You're right, it is. It's literally. I'm sure you can see it from Hobart.
I think you can see it from. I think Hobart Harbour sort of faces inward to the river, but if you go, from the suburbs of Hobart, you'll see Bruny Island.
Yeah, so it's really close.
Yeah.
So it is quite strange that transport link is. It seems a bit arbitrary.
But no, amazing place, amazing food, oysters, wildlife. Like, it's sort of strange echidnas there that have apparently evolved differently because they had fewer predators than the mainland, so they've got fewer spines. They're nearly furry rather than spiny.
Huh?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
So,
sorry, going ahead.
I was going to say, sorry, but Robin, it looked like your workshop was flooding the other night.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole of Australia is on fire while we're taking on water. It's just, so we haven't had rain, and I want to paint this picture in everyone's mind so they can understand why I was caught unaware. We haven't had any decent rain for about 6 months. We then have a fairly big rain. I think it was about, must have been around 20 mil over 24 hours. And the next day, we had 100 mil within a couple of hours.
Wow.
So that's how quickly it just came on. I was sitting upstairs and I thought, it's coming down. And then I suddenly realized I need to go downstairs and install my sump pump, which I take out during winter.
Right.
So it doesn't just get, the sun beaten and all of that. Ran downstairs, chucked it in. By that stage, it was too late. The water was just rising too fast. And so it actually came in. My workshop door is at the top of a slight angle. So it's at sort of on the one end of the workshop. The other end of the workshop is where the flooding happens because it comes in underneath the slab. This water was actually coming in through the door. That's how much it was. It's probably about a 50 to 100 mil slope.
Yeah.
And it had come up that high.
Wow.
And so got the pump in, started pumping it out to the street as quick as I could, but it wasn't quick enough. But because the next day it all ended, it all stopped. And because we've been so dry, it just soaked away real quick.
That's good, eh?
Yeah, so there's just a bit of, you can see the water damage, but all the tools are up, all the workbenches are up with that in mind, so there's no permanent damage. It's just the main issue is mold. And because I've been able to come and go and turn on the ACs to get the air dry in here, it's been fine. But last year when we had the big floods, I was on holiday. Well, me and the family were on holiday, so just the air in here was like a bathtub for a week. So you can imagine how the mold just loves that. So that was a bit of fun. But other than that, it's mainly just been working on this renovation upstairs for me. So the last time we talked, I was getting you guys' advice on the floorboard that I was going to put down. And it was all going really well. I milled up the timber. It's a lovely dark timber and it was going really well. One of the things we talked about was making sure that the floorboard sits on the joist and you don't have the groove sitting on the tongue, because otherwise it would break the groove off the tongue, right? Because there are 2 boards with tongues on either end, and I was putting a new board through the middle.
Yeah.
So I thought, and it's amazing how hindsight is 20/20, eh? I thought I'm going to make that groove, those sort of shoulders, quite thin so that there's no chance of them touching the tongue. And I went and installed this thing, got my belt sander out to start leveling it, And next thing, I've got this like wafer paper thin shoulder on the one end. Oh, I was so annoyed. I didn't even think about that. But I managed to fix it. I could get up from underneath and get some that epoxy putty.
Okay, yeah.
And force that in. So it's still really thin. And if I ever decide to, if I refinish the floors, I'm stuffed. Yeah. But that's at least holding it solid, so it's tight. It's not like it's going to break off. But other than that, it went pretty well. Getting the nails through the hardwood joists, I don't know what manner of human would have done this house, because they are like steel. Like what?
Probably just that it's so dry. Like I know working with New Zealand Rimu, when it's freshly milled, you can drive a nail into it relatively. It's hard, but it's not crazy. If you are trying to do the same thing to 100-year-old Rimu joists, it's not going to happen. You have to pre-drill it. It just turns to rock. So it could be a similar thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because the code says that you pre-drill the floorboard to 80% of the width, 80% of the size of your nail shank, right?
Yeah.
By the end of it, I said, no chance. I'm drilling it to the same size, because I literally had a pile of bent nails that was bigger than the nails that I was trying to put into the floor.
It's not easy with really old hardwoods like that. I'm not sure what the solution is really.
But yeah, so the floorboard went in okay. It's pretty rock solid. And so far, everything's holding up. Put the clear coat on. Didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. You can see the sheen difference between the old and the new. And I've tried feathering it, and it's sort of kind of there. And I'm going to be going the staining route to try and match the boards, but I'll get to that later. So it's not great, but I always knew that it was never going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. Really, the only thing you can do is resurface the whole house. But, maybe we'll do that in a couple of years' time.
Yeah.
So now it's working on the kitchen island, and I've got this amazing idea for the kitchen. Well, I think it's amazing anyway. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it. Oh. I had an electrician come around this week just to do a bit of consultation to make sure what I'm trying to do will work. And so hopefully I'm going to get started on that. And actually, from a YouTube perspective, I'm getting sponsored this video by Skillshare.
Oh, no way.
Which is quite a nice tick box for that. It's not actually like, I don't work directly with Skillshare.
Yeah.
I work through a third-party company.
Yeah.
But normally I'm so nervous about sponsors because, geez, you can turn people off so quickly.
Yeah.
But Skillshare is one of those real notch in the belt type of sponsors, so I'm quite excited about it.
That's cool. Skillshare seems pretty relevant to most people. It can be relevant, and it's not like you're just trying to sell a mattress. It's something that most people might want to use. So that's cool.
Yeah. Joey, I saw that you got sponsored by that timber company of yours.
Yeah, that was kind of out of the blue. They just approached me when the rep dropped by and was looking at the plans, because I was just about to start making the ambassador's table, and I was showing him the drawings, and he said, maybe we should sponsor you, because he liked the look of it, thought the video would do well. And so I just kind of came up with some of my ideal sponsorship plans, which is you really just get one little blurb, and then that's what you get for a year. There'll be no one else. You just have to sponsor every video I do for a year, and then at the end of the year you can decide if you want to quit or go for another year. I don't want to have multiple sponsors. It's just one company, and that's it.
So they're the only sponsor for a year, and they're sponsoring every video?
Yeah.
So you've got to make mention of them in every video?
Yep.
Okay.
It seems like a good fit though. Like as you said, it's a mattress company. That whole, if you're making a bed, it makes sense. But if you're making a dining table, being sponsored by a mattress company is a bit odd.
That's
but
right.
The fact that everything you make is timber, being sponsored by a timber company makes, it's a good fit.
Yeah,
and they're local as well.
Yeah, they're my local guys. I've used them for nearly 10 years, and so we've got a good relationship. And actually, more and more these days, I'm getting inquiries from YouTube locally, and so it's actually kind of starting to work out that it is actually a bit of an advertising stream for me for actual work. So it's all falling into place a little bit that way.
Yeah, that's cool. So you were working, Joey, on, I saw it on Facebook. It was dresses, wasn't it?
Some bedside tables.
Bedside tables, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, man, it's one of many jobs sitting in a pile that's half finished, and I'm trying to find some time to get to it. I'm kind of waiting on a couple of bits I've ordered in. They're from a client I did a lot of work for a couple of years ago, and she wants a bunch more stuff, and so that's good. So I wanted to talk about the cots a little bit more. So as I get better at understanding business over the years, I've come to the realization that it would be good if I can find something that works. It would be nice to have a product that I can have running in the background most of the time, something that I can produce. And it just so happened about a year ago, a company came to me and asked for a cot sample. I made the cot, and they're looking at about 20 a month. So it's like a decent amount.
Jeez.
They're very basic because they're going to be sold to daycare centers and kind of commercial premises where they're just for a day's sleep for the kids. And so it's a very basic thing. It's just made out of pine, very simple, just simply put together, but he wants it just how he wants it. And so anyway, he's come back to me and asked for a second sample, and we're making a few changes on the previous model, and we've got an updated drop side mechanism, which is one of the reasons I didn't want to carry on with the other ones, because I didn't want to be involved with the drop side mechanism that was so flimsy. I kind of said, this is going to start coming back to me if there's any issues with this. So now that that's sorted out, I'm just working on a next prototype, and ideally what I'm going to do is set up a part of the workshop with like a jig station where we will buy in dressed pine that is the right size, and essentially it's just going to be a matter of cutting to length, cutting domino holes or slots, whatever it needs to be, on various jigs. And in theory, if the quantity is what they want, what they're saying it's going to be, I will probably end up employing somebody just to run making cots, and he wants some very basic solid pine shelving units, which really just involves gluing dressed pine boards together and cutting them to length. So it's very simple stuff that anyone can kind of do, and if it works out, I think it will be good in that it's just constantly stuff happening. There's no real downtime. Even if it comes to the point where I don't employ someone, it means that paint's drying, we can run some boards through this, put them through the sander. I mean, there's just never going to be downtime, which at the moment there is often downtime towards the end of the days for me, because we're either painting or gluing up or something like that. So hopefully this year is going to be a good kind of step forward in getting into production type things, which also brings me to...
I think that is a great idea.
Yeah.
Especially settling on something like a cot as opposed to a dining table or a bedside table, where everybody wants that bit of customization in it.
Yeah.
Whereas a cot is a pretty utilitarian piece of furniture, you know. And the standards say that it has to be a certain height, certain width to fit a mattress, and especially spacing of the bars.
Especially these ones, they are, it's commercial as well. It's not like it's going to be in someone's house. This is just for the half-hour sleep that the daycares put the kids down for, and so it's just very simple and practical, like you say, and so you don't have to be too fussy. And I've got one. He sent me one that he had made in China, and I'm just copying it. So I'm just literally measuring and cutting, and
it's a nice reversal of, usually it's the other way around. Yeah. You mix a piece and then it ends up being ripped off in China.
So the only thing, so he's sick of buying from China. He wants them made in New Zealand, and he just wants to be able to get them for the same quality and the same price point, and I'm pretty close.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I'm in the ballpark, and if we do this quantity and we make them how I want to make them, I think we can do it. The only downside is the finishing, and they've used some kind of lacquer something in China. Very nice hard finish, but spraying slats it's just such a waste of material for a start, and it's very difficult to not have overspray coming around the other side of the spindles and slats and all that stuff. So I've actually would want to hear your guys' opinion. I'm not sure. I've only just bought a can of Livos oil. Have you heard of it? Use it? It's an Australian-made finish.
Yeah, I've had them approach me a few times. I've never
Right.
I think it's pretty similar to Osmo the way it's a hard wax, right?
So I know that Anton Gerner is a Melbourne-based furniture maker. He changed from Osmo to Livos, and I thought, well, if it's good enough for him for his furniture, it's going to be perfect for a child-friendly stuff. And I looked at the specs, and it is kid-friendly. Food safe and all that, so it'd be perfect, and it's just wipe on 2 coats and it's finished. So that's my plan for finishing the cots and all this kind of commercial stuff, which means...
How do you spell the name? Livos, L-I-V-O-S.
L-I-V-O-S, yeah. Livos. So it's an Australian product, so I can't actually buy it here. I had to have it shipped over, but...
there's no sellers in New Zealand?
No. So... If it works out, I'll see if I can order like a bigger drum of it if they do it.
Yeah, big bulk.
Get like 20 litres at a time or something. But
I mean, I pretty much use Osmo for everything, and because it's food safe, like it's a great thing to use on dining tables and all that kind of stuff, and especially with a crib. Where kids tend to chew on things. The idea of a lacquer cracking and the poison is not a good thing for babies. What I was going to say is the time taken, so the material saving versus the lacquer, like spraying the lacquer on, as opposed to wiping on, the time taken to do the spindles. Yeah, that's going to be fun for your cop man to do.
Yeah, that could be interesting. You're right. I haven't found a good way to spray anything like that. It's just not something I don't have the experience in. I'm not sure how they do it.
Are they round spindles or are they flat?
No, they're more
slats?
like it's actually just a big domino. Really, the spindle is like a
right. Okay.
I'm going to make them slightly bigger than the max size a domino can cut, but they'll be essentially big ovals, kind of. So
they do have a flat side, so you could use a ruler to sort of line them up and do one side and then
Lately, I've when I just tried it out yesterday. Well, no, it must have been this morning. The Livos oil, and I really, I was like, oh wow, this is so easy to use as opposed to using the water-based lacquer that I've been using. And it kind of, I'm starting to think now maybe I should go back to using a wipe-on oil because it's so easy to get a good finish on stuff. Whereas using a film finish lacquer, well, it is very easy to use and it dries very quick. You still have issues with getting a dead flat surface. And I think using an oil that you can kind of buff in. So I'm now going to start probably using it more on other pieces of furniture just to get away from, it's just constant progression and constant kind of working out what is good and what is not good for various reasons.
With the spindles, are you finishing them once it's assembled, or are you pre-finishing them?
That's the plan, but actually I was looking at the Chinese one, and I think it's been pre-finished. I think
surely you could just tape off the two ends, and then you just hammer it, and then surely that'd be quicker than...
Possibly. Just again a matter of having space for a gazillion spindles to be put somewhere while they're drying. Whereas opposed if it's attached to a frame, you can just kind of hang the whole frame.
Yeah, you could almost set up I'm thinking like an A-frame with some, so that you've got your A-frame and then you've got some horizontal strips where they all just slot into. So you finish it, slot, slot, and then off you go.
That's not silly.
I suppose because you're doing them as a sort of a domino type profile, you don't really need to worry about them spinning either.
No.
So the reason why I pre-finished the spindles on my crib was because they are dowels. And when they're glued in, I don't want the glue to sort of show in the corners. So by pre-finishing it, it's dead easy just to remove it with a chisel quickly. But you probably wouldn't even need to use... Would you even need to use glue?
I don't think so. because the frame
so it
is
just takes one step
together,
out of the...
So it's really just a friction fit.
Yeah.
So I probably could just finish the whole thing.
You'll see. Yeah. I have actually started, as promised, I have started filming the crib as well. So I will do a YouTube video. God knows if it'll come out this year, but the footage will be there. But because I'm using the round profile spindles, trying to come up with a quick way so that they won't spin if the glue bond breaks. So on the bed head, I've kind of gone with a more expressed wedged through tenon, like a decorative thing. But on the side panels, they just sit in holes and they've got a shoulder on them.
Right.
So I was looking at, dialing them from the inside and flush trimming them, and then I was like, God, this is going to take forever. So I'm actually going to try a technique of once the panel's fully assembled, taking either a router or a table saw and cutting through the section where the spindle goes into the frame, and then running a key that will sort of start it turning and then playing it flush.
That's a pretty cool idea.
And you just sort of need to do it. Yeah, I reckon it's going to be super quick.
Yep.
And it's a mechanical joint. Like, it's going to be impossible for I don't know, an adult human to turn the spindle, never mind a baby.
No.
And they're going to be on the bottom inside edges of the crib, so you never, not that you'll see it anyway, but it'll be completely invisible.
Yeah, so of course, you only have to do
stay tuned,
one end.
And I will.
You don't have to do top and bottom.
Yeah.
So.
No. So I was even thinking that next time if I did it, I wouldn't have to glue the spindles, that they would just go in as a reasonably tight fit, and then you run that profile cut, and the strip is what.
As long as it's not loose enough that the dowel can move while you're cutting it, or after you've cut it, and then you
while I'm cutting,
try and find it again.
I did them because these were the recycled dowels that I got. So there's some that have small flats or they've got a bit of feature in them, so I put a shoulder on them, all using the shaper, so they are a perfect circle. And it took a bit of trial and error to get them the perfect fit, but they're fitting really nicely. And I could have made them tighter, I think. But cribs, all fun. I was going to say, sorry, Joey, how did you go with your t-shirt sales?
Oh, fine. I didn't expect to sell gazillions. I think I sold less than I really thought I would. It's not like I was making money. It wasn't. I think in total, I think I just went to the post office today, and I think it cost me an extra $10 more than I thought it would. So, not really fussed about it, but it worked good.
Oh, it's nice. It's nice that have a King Post t-shirt rocking up somewhere. I don't know, outer Kazakhstan or something like that.
There's Germany and a bunch in the States and a bunch in Australia. So that was cool.
Ah, cool.
Do you know if they are other woodworkers or potentially even YouTubers or Instagrammers?
I know there's a few YouTube / people and a few just woodworkers. So that'd be cool.
The day you posted it was the day that I was going to reorder some for myself, and I'm like, maybe I should open it up. So I'm gonna put a link on my website. And try to add some to it. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I still think the OG is way better in my opinion.
Which one's
I've got one of Joey's. Those of you who are listening won't be able to see that, but I still think
making
that
big wood and small wood.
It's such a classic line. Yeah.
Who did the graphic design for the Making Big Wood ones?
A company, I think I'm going to get that name wrong. I think it's Printly in Melbourne. I think they are. The guy with the stickers. Yeah,
that's it.
So I contacted him and said, "Hey, I want some stickers, and I want it to say this, and can you come up with the design?" And he did that as one of a bunch, and I said, "That's the one, I want that." And then I said, "Actually, I don't want them as stickers. Can I buy the design off you and use them for t-shirt prints?" And so I bought it, and he sent me the vectors, and that was it. So that was really cool.
Yeah, he seems like a really good dude, because he helped us out with the Shop Stool Podcast stickers.
Right.
And after that, I saw a lot of guys in the community all suddenly getting stickers from him. So I hope it's really sort of helped his business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I think we're done. I've got some other stuff I'm working on, but that'll do for next time.
let's call it a day there, because that's quite a, so, I guess, Joey, it's going to be a long day for the rest of you. Mel and Brian, good luck with the heat. I've just got a message from a mate of mine down in Tassie, same guy I was talking about earlier, to say it's just bonkers at the moment down there.
Yeah, no, really, I'm going to be doing admin today, I think. I've done enough this week.
Yeah. Okay, so to everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please go ahead and give it a rating on iTunes. That really does help us out. Shop Stool Podcast is available on iTunes and most other podcast apps. My name is Robin Lewis. Joey and Brian, thanks very much for hanging out today. Take care, everyone, and we will see you in the next show.
See you, everyone.
All the best, guys.